Alrighty folks, here's the two saddles that I traded for. They're good using saddles, but they do have a few things that need to be fixed on them, and I thought I'd just take you through and show you, if you're looking to buy used saddles, you're going to trade for some saddles, just some things to look for. And I wanted to give kind of my pre-inspection before trading for saddles or buying saddles, and things to look for, things to buy and what not to buy. So when I looked at this saddle, the very first thing that I seen was the thickness of the leather. That's a really high quality leather. You can tell it's used, you can tell it's been used, but overall the leather has weared really well. Noticeable things: the horn cap is busted, totally cosmetic. The horn's not hurt. The very next thing I go to, just as I go down the saddle, is the rigging. So what I'm looking for here is the rigging wore through right here at the crease? Go to the other side. Not in too bad a shape. The rigging on the back, not in too bad a shape. This has brass riggings. That's another sign of a real quality made older saddle. A lot of the newer saddles like this one are going to have stainless or stainless coated rigging. So difference here in the saddles: a lot thinner material, a lot thicker material. This is more like a weekend warrior. This is an everyday ranch saddle. So the next thing I look at is the stirrup leathers. What I noticed right away, this one was wore through and somebody had added a piece where it had broken. So automatically, if you do the work yourself, a set of stirrup leathers are going to cost you about 70 bucks, and you're going to need some rivets, you're going to need a hammer and some type of block. Put those rivets in. I can do all that stuff myself. The other thing that I noticed right away was the skirting is coming apart in certain areas. That's just normal wear and tear if you're riding a lot, and the fleece is going to need to be replaced. Not big issues. Check the stirrup leathers on this side. Again, they're kind of thin in areas, so going to need those replaced. Not a a killer on the deal, because I know what I'm looking at. 70 bucks, I got new stirrup leathers, could totally ride this saddle. The rigging's in good shape, the rigging's tight. You can see some of the trim is loose and the skirting is loose. There again, doesn't hurt it. You got a good thick pad, you could still ride it. Overall, really good saddle for the money. The thing that I would take and focus on is safety. That's the rigging and the stirrup leathers. Don't buy a saddle if you intend on riding it right away, if it's got those issues, if it's got bad stirrup leathers and it's got bad rigging. This saddle would be okay if the stirrup leathers weren't wore through. So I would have to replace the stirrup leathers before I strap this on a colt and rode it. So the next thing I'm going to look at as I'm inspecting this saddle, I've looked at the rigging, I've looked at the stirrup leathers, I've noticed the cosmetic problems. I'm going to push the horn back against the kennel and see if it's loose. It's not. I'll do the same to the other one. These are all things I do relatively quick when I'm looking at saddles, trying to determine a purchase. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push on, put my hands on both sides, and I'm going to push on the forks to see if there's any give, and there's not. The same thing back here where the tail of the tree is, and just put some movement on it. This thing is tight. It doesn't move at all. I did the same thing with this saddle. I just push on it squeeze the tail end down. There's not any movement. So these are relatively tight trees with just some cosmetic issues and some stirrup leather needing to be replaced. Now let's talk about the difference in trees. This is a rawhide over wood tree, which I'm really fond of. I like these older wood trees that are rawhide and rosined. They last a lot longer. They've got a little bit more flex, so they can take some hits. They can take some, you know, some cows jerking on them. This tree over here is actually a fiberglass tree. Not saying they're bad, just a preference. These don't take the shock, particularly on cold days. I've seen these snap. And you can come up here under this seat and you can see this is fiberglass. So this whole thing is a formed fiberglass composite tree, whereas this one is in pieces. These forks are connected to the bars, and then the cantle is connected to the bars, and somebody hand fashioned that tree. They wrap them in rawhide, wet rawhide, stitch them up, and then they rosin them down, put a resin, not rosin, but resin on them. Makes the rawhide very hard, whereas these fiberglass and resin trees, in my opinion, don't have as much flexibility. So when I see a saddle that has really thick leather, a wood over rawhide tree, another good indicator it's a quality saddle is brass rigging compared to the stainless or stainless plated rigging. I'm going to go with the one that is made out of quality materials over one that's not. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad saddle. Would be a great for a weekend warrior, even if you're going to rope, would be great for that. For an everyday ranch saddle like I do working colts, this saddle is going to take more abuse than this one over here. That's just the way it is, because it's a heavier leather. So those are some things I look for, and I just go right down the list. I look at the rigging, I look at the stirrup leathers. The cosmetics are not really a big issue. I can get the fleece replaced and get the stirrup leathers replaced, and I've got a good quality saddle. The horn cap, don't really care about it. They're not a status symbol. This is going to be a using saddle. I may sell it, I may keep it. Either way, really good investment. Both these saddles are in really good shape for being used, and neither one of them is a deal breaker. This one over here, of course, needs stirrup leathers, just like this one. But hey, that's an easy fix if you've got a saddle shop near you. Depending on how much you buy them for or how much you trade them for, that's about a $70 fix. If they do the work, may run you $120. So keep that in mind if it needs stirrup leathers. The fleeces are a little bit more expensive to refleece, but there again, you could totally ride the saddle without that. Just thought I'd give you guys some tips on looking at saddles. Overall, I don't think I did too bad. So there's just some of my checklists that I go through when I'm looking to buy a used saddle, so that I kind of know how much money I'm going to have to put into it so I can use it. And you know, if you're just looking for a saddle to throw on a colt, hey, either one of these would work great. Let them buck around with it if you don't care too much about how it's going to take and impact the saddle. But either one of these are really good option for buying a used saddle. I'm not too big on name brands. What I look for is quality. I've ridden a lot of saddles over the years, a lot of different saddles, and I just look for quality workmanship. A lot of these saddles that are coming out today, particularly new ones, are built in workshops where they turn out a lot of saddles every day. A lot of them are coming from other countries, and you got to be careful. I prefer a really good saddle that's made by a craftsman, and you know, those indicators that is good quality material. They put a lot of money into just the material. It's a lot thicker, the brass rigging, those sorts of things. Those are things you want to look for. If you have one of those saddles, they're well worth overhauling and reworking, because they're made out of quality material. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it helps somebody. You know, you never know. There's a lot of people getting into horses, and what my goal is to take and to help folks out if I can. And a lot of people make a lot of bad decisions over the years. I've had a lot of students and a lot of people buy saddles that were just junk, and they hurt their horses. They ended up getting hurt on it, and they didn't last, when they could have just went out, bought a used saddle, put a little bit of money into it, and rode that saddle for the rest of their life. So with that being said, thank y'all for stopping by. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you like what you see, tell your friends about us. And if you don't know which way to go in this old world, commit your ways unto the Lord. Trust also in Him, and He'll bring it to pass. We'll see you later.